So, if set up correctly, the crossbow and daggers can output some seriously insane burst multi-target damage. Just have a look at this. With another example here on, say, a dummy test where you can even get on a single target a hit of 22,000. So when just farming in like open world dungeons and questing, you can seriously do a ton of damage when you get the enemies properly grouped up. So in this video, I'm going to cover what skills to use, what specializations, what weapon masteries, what passives, and ultimately the exact rotation you want to follow to maximize your damage. There'll be timestamps on the play bar below where you can skip to any section you're most interested in. We're going to start with power setup, and this is what you want to be using. From your block ability, all your active abilities, and then your passives. You're going to need all of these abilities except potentially Shadow Strike and maybe Mana Exchange, as those are going to be like your two support effects. A Gap Closer and regenning mana. As pay attention to the top left there, our mana when we activate this ability, zoop, all gone. You absolutely need a way to regen it. Just be aware of the different abilities and their names. For example, Thundercloud's bombing is actually originally going to be named Brutal Incision with this icon. Get that slotted, and with specializations it changes to Thundercloud bombing. That's going to be the same with Annihilation Barrage Shot. That's originally going to be named Merciless Barrage. So slot that in, and then you're going to get those specializations which changes it to Annihilation Barrage Shot. Also, your Lightning Infusion here is originally named Inject the Venom, and you're using that specialization and it changes it. Same with Detonation Mark, it is actually originally named Mortal Mark, so slot that there and get the specialization, and you get the massive damage boost. Fatal Stigma, still a very similar icon, but also it does change with this specialization too. So get all of those slotted in. You can see the exact keybinds I'm using too, and for me that works the best. If you want to know my exact settings that I use, you can check out this video. Then moving on to these passives, I do recommend just all of these: Piercing Strike, Destructive Fang, Bloodlust, Nature's Power, Ambidexterity, Wrathful Edge, Assassin's Instincts, and then Murderous Energy. Murderous Energy, a little bit more important here with multi-target because you kind of do want that extra duration on those Thunderclad stacks. But if you're quick, it's not important, and you could ultimately have a little bit of a survivability boost with, say, Shadow Walker. But now we move on to those specializations. Again, they are going to change the effect of a lot of your abilities, and it's a must to slot the ones I have here. This is everything for the dagger. The powers should be in the correct positions there if you're playing on PC, and again, slightly different naming and icons when, say, you don't have those specialization points selected. And then with the crossbow, that's it just here. So copy that, but a quick few notes. Cleaving Moonlight, you do want the 2 hits there. It's a multi-target attack power, so that's great. And you do also want to be adding those Thunderclad stacks to be able to still have good single target damage burst. You need this to make Lightning Infusion what it is, giving Thunderclad stacks on each of your attacks. You need Thunderclad bombings to be able to deal that massive extra damage depending on how many stacks you have with the cooldown reduction. And Fatal Stigma here, it's great to have the extra multi-target damage right there. If your target has Thunderclad stacks, which they should from Lightning Infusion, then when you use that Stigma, it's now a multi-target effect that when it explodes, it deals damage to all the targets, not just the primary one. So very useful if you can get the enemies tightly grouped. With the crossbow, we have sacrificed a little bit with quick fire, and potentially you could have Gale with it, but I haven't really found it useful, and we need to put the point somewhere else. So extra cooldown reduction is massive there with then having it 4 hits. Detonation Mark, you really need that there to make it deal 40% extra damage, and it can potentially stack twice, giving you up to 80% of the total damage you deal back to the attacker after like 6 seconds when it stacks twice. You need to have Mother Nature's Protest, and for multi-target you want to have the Gale Arrow. This allows you to put Gale stacks on your target, and basically when you reach 10 stacks, They will explode, as you can see in the description here, and deal 150% plus 30 damage to enemies within a 3-meter radius, giving it that multi-target effect. But again, I don't really recommend bothering putting it on quick fire, as if it just triggers once, that's whatever. You mainly have it here to combine with Annihilation Barrage Shot. You need to have this specialization here to make it what it is, and then you also want to have Gale, because you're going to trigger Gale so many times on your target when you combine it as well with Mother Nature's Protest. You can see that right here. If we have like this target selected and then we use that ability, you can see how often you're getting the Gale stacks and then they're like expiring, basically exploding. You can also see it when there's like this blue effect around the target. It's a bit like a whirlwind. And ultimately, you kind of really need to have these points in mana exchange to give you back the massive amount of mana, because again, you do this burst and you completely drain your mana when you're hitting quite a few targets. That is primarily because of Mother Nature's Protest, because every time that triggers per projectile, it's draining 19 mana. You could turn it off, but you would lose a significant amount of damage, but you would also not use so much mana. So mana recovery is crucial to help give you that back, with the specialization just allowing you to not have to spam it so often. One or two things I do like to switch around sometimes is getting like the extra 40% range on Shadow Strike. It can be great. I use this ability just as a gap closer. Because you're using like Fatal Stigma, which is a melee power, you need to be adjacent to your enemy, and also Annihilation Barrage, you want to be close to everything that you're actually hitting. Same then with the follow-up of Thundercloud's Bombing and Cleaving Moonlight. A quick note on the weapon masteries, if you're not aware, you simply just get all the damage ones. So the bottom ones here, and then start filling out the middle tree if you get enough points. Same with the crossbow. Just be aware you only gain these effects when you're actually wielding the weapon. But the most crucial points is offhand activation for the crossbow, and also the dagger. With that, we go to rotation. What's the exact order you want to use the abilities? Well, if you are paying close attention, you probably already realize it, and it's pretty basic here. This is ultimately it for multi-target. Just make sure you got Mother Nature's Protest active. It should be highlighted in like green there. When it's off, it's like that. So make sure it's turned on, you get those extra hits and the ability to trigger Gale on your target. Following that, you need to have Lightning Infusion to apply like Weaken Thunderclouds. You need Selfless Diffusion for the cooldown reduction. And it also gives upwards of 100% extra offhand trigger chance when upgraded. It's definitely one of the top priority abilities to upgrade. Detonation Mark for the massive amounts of damage you will deal to the one target. This can account for, even with this setup, over 22,000 damage. If you go more single target with these abilities, not using Annihilation Barrage, you can still get like nearly 26,000, and that's with pretty mid-game gear. So then you're casting Fatal Stigma on your target. Be aware you want to have it on like the target which is in the center of all the enemies, because this one will be exploding and will deal AoE damage within 3 meters to everybody. Then Annihilation Barrage Shot, that's again your spin to win ability there. You can kind of see the area of it there, that blue radius around us. That circle is how big of an effect it has, and it's going to hit all the enemies within there. After that, you want to follow up with Thundercloud's Bombing. It'll deal massive amounts of damage, like 4,000, 5,000, consume those Thundercloud stacks. And after that, you're just going to follow up with like Cleaving Moonlight, Knife Throw, and Quick Fire to finish off whatever's remaining of the enemy groups. The one thing to be aware of, though, is Annihilation Barrage's cooldown. It's over a minute. So you don't exactly want to be, say, doing this rotation and then standing AFK waiting for Annihilation Barrage Shot to go off cooldown before you deal damage again. So you will have to do something else in between. And that will primarily be single target, as you don't actually have a lot of multi-target outside of that ability. So yes, you have an absolute ton of multi-target burst damage, but once that's done, you're kind of just back to single target, which generally works fine, because in most cases you're just going to be kiting groups together, and that will take a bit of time, or killing enemies pretty much one at a time. So with this full setup, you can still absolutely nuke enemies. And so the rotation is just like this. This is what you do when you don't have Annihilation Barrage or you don't have multiple enemies to beat up. You will have Mother Nature's Protest active. You could potentially switch that over to the Lightning one. Fatal Stigma, Lightning Infusion, Selfless Diffusion, Detonation Mark, Cleaving Moonlight, Quickfire, Thunderclouds Bombing, Knife Throwing, Cleaving Moonlight, and then Thunderclouds Bombing again. This is the same rotation I showed in my single target damage video, except it's going to be missing out on having, say, weak point shot. So go ahead and watch this video if you want more details on that single target setup. But just to demonstrate that right here, you can get out massive amounts of single target damage, even though this is primarily like multi-target setup. I don't like that the damage floaters go by so quickly, but if you've just noticed in that previous clip, we did get nearly 26,000 hit. And that's with just this rotation, again, without Annihilation Barrage. And that hit is just from Detonation Mark when it triggers twice with, say, your offhand ability. I do get asked a lot, what's up with my gear? Well, I'll quickly show you here what I'm using. So this is the setup. You can see the stats here. We ideally want to get 2 more points to go into strength there. And we will want to stack wisdom too. I managed to push to 60 dexterity, which is kind of worth it for the crit hit chance. The weapons here are a bit scuffed. You don't actually want these purple weapons. I just got them and I will eventually transfer them to better ones. The most important stat there is going to be offhand double attack chance. And daggers you can get to 26%. And the crossbow you can get to 28%. So these ones are not ideal. All of my gear here is just mix of blue and like 2 purple pieces. So I am still well in the way of needing to progress, and I haven't focused on traits whatsoever. Whenever I had a choice with gear, I always went and took pretty much whatever gave me critical hit chance, and after that, hit chance. Later on, we'll definitely want to be focusing on as much heavy attack chance as we can, along with bonus damage, skill damage boost, and critical damage. This build can output an absolute ton of burst damage in PvE content. If you want to know about PvP, well, this can work in some cases, but you are totally a glass cannon. And if you don't get your rotation off quick enough, you're just going to get CC'd and they're going to kill you before you pretty much do anything. While enemies are squishy, Annihilation Barrage Shot can be completely insane in PvP content. But once they get some defense abilities, this probably won't kill them, and somebody just casting like Phantom Smoke Screen with this specialization will completely nullify your ability. Overall, thanks for watching. I hope this was somewhat insightful, and if it was, consider leaving the video a like. If you're new around here, consider subscribing. I will definitely be coming out with more content in terms of what actual gear to go for, not really what I have, and some more details in terms of traits and even the damage formula. So we'll see you guys around. Goodbye for now.